That's quite a nice segue, Dennis, into your section about trends in grading.
Yeah.
How do we deal with this universal change in the world?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I'm here together with Dennis, and we're going to just talk some about trends in grading. And then afterwards, I'm going to hand it over to Dennis. He can do his presentation. And so I've actually written a couple of articles about this. And what I found is that my experience is that the whole COVID situation has changed how colorists work now. It's changed their workflow. Now they're forced to actually work from home. And some of them have actually already adapted themselves before COVID for this, because very often their clients couldn't come in. So I know one facility where they actually have 3 cameras in the room with an ATEM mini switcher. So this way the director of photography can sit at home and they can go through and see all the different angles from the operator when he's working. And then they also ship to him a grading monitor in a flight case. So this way he can install it at home. And then they use the ATEM mini streaming box for this. So they have a private stream of the signal that comes over to them, and then they can start working this way. The other thing too, what happened is we went into a lockdown, and then I was approached by many colorists who would say, well, gee, Blake, I have to go into, if we have to go into a lockdown and I want to do color grading, well, why on earth do I have to do it in Munich? I can go to Spain and do it. So what they do is they take their laptop, they get a micro panel, they get a small grading monitor, and they go to Marbella and they get into a hotel and they do everything over the net, and it works fine for them. So what I did is I recommend, I said, okay, you get a small laptop, you can get a PC, or you can get a MacBook Pro or something like this. And then for a grading monitor, you get something like the little Asus PQ22 UC for this. And this is perfect because you can attach it, you can carry it on the airplane. It's not bulky or anything like that. And then they can just start working. And then for storage, they can use the cloud storage, or if they have a bit more luggage space, they can get something like a Acusys Gamma Carry and connect it into the Thunderbolt 3 port, and they're ready to go. So another thing, what happens too, is I told them, I said, well, if you're in a situation that maybe your laptop's too old, then maybe you want to go into something like cloud computing. And in that case, you can go the Eclipse Tech route. In Eclipse Tech, you are only paying for what you use. And then when you log in, you've got a powerful computer fitted out with Tesla cards. You can change your CPU to whatever size you want. You're all ready to go. And then you can use different storages. And so, for example, you can use like, if you want to use Wasabi, for example, or you can use any other type of cloud storage and configure to that. And then you can even also set up your Frame.io account, or if you're using IO gates, you can do that as well. And then so once you do, you log into there, you're all set up and you're ready. So this is something that we use a lot sometimes when, for example, like when I'm grading at home, I'll be using a cloud computing format. If I'm doing a real powerful project and I need more computing power, I'll use Eclipse Tech for this. And this is something that works really, really well. When you're thinking about storage, I mean, I was talking about the Acusys Thunderbolt 3 storage. You can also go the G-Tech route, or if you're in a situation that maybe you're not flying on an airplane, then you can get a bigger grading monitor. So then you can go with the Acusys ProArt. This is the PA32 UCX, or now coming up will be the UCG monitor. And these are fantastic monitors where you can basically bring them over, set them up, and you've got a small studio there. So there's so many different possibilities that you can do for this. And people realize now that this has changed the way you're working forever now. So a lot of people will not go back to the way they were working before. It's actually going to stay this way now.
I
And
agree. I agree. There was a report out. I think it might have been the University of Chicago School of Medicine, but there was a study on muscle memory and was just tracking and studying how long it takes people to change habits permanently or mostly permanently. And it's about 18 months. And look where we
yeah,
are. We're 15 months in or so. And every studio executive that we work with, who tends to be older person, they're not going to go back to the studio a lot 5 days a week. And then editors, I know editors that have moved and just saying, with Bebop or with Teradici over PCOFD, I can edit from anywhere.
yeah. I've just finished editing actually 3 documentaries with my brother. He's based in France, so he can't come over here and I can't go over there. And so we're doing everything remotely. And also the fact that he can preview everything on IO gates. He can set everything up there, gives me a shot list. I go through, put it all together. I send him a preview copy for him to have a look at. And then he says, gee, when I was working in Paris with the editor, it was taking me 50% longer than it was when we're doing it this way. This is so much better. And he says, I'm going to work like this from now on. And now actually the other studios in France are looking at this. And what we've done now is we've actually formatted this all into a workflow, which we call Cloud Studio. And we do this to offer this to the TV stations to say, hey, this is the way we're working. Why don't you work this way too? Yeah.
And what's their reaction, Blake? Because some TV engineering teams, tend to be a bit tree huggers at times, and they haven't been the ones to blaze the path to the cloud. Some have.
Well,
what's your view on it?
In the past, they were far more restrictive about this. A lot of them didn't want to go down this route, and now they were forced to go this way. And if you think of a company like Canal Plus has this huge building outside Paris, and now almost no work is being done there at all. It's all, as in France they call it télétravail, and this is all the homework they're doing there. And so now they realize they have to go this way. And so we're just starting a new production on ballooning, and we have to do all the 3D modeling. We have to do all that stuff. We're doing it all here. And then afterwards, we send it all over there that way. And even Canal Plus says, yeah, okay, go for it.
I think for some of the smaller, what I call tier 3 and maybe tier 4, maybe some tier 2 post houses, it's a little easier. For the tier 1 post houses, I mean, some of them have, of course, have had their challenges this year in terms of reorganizing or splitting up, and they've just got too much equipment to still depreciate. And when we talk to them and listen to them, the path toward cloud is, yep, we're going to get there, but I've got all this stuff on our books right now. Whereas you take somebody more nimble. I mean, at ETC, there was a great guy named Sam Reed in London. He left, and 3 other fellows formed Untold Studios, and they bid on season 2 to do the post work for The Crown, and they won it. And there was only 4 people. They hired 56 or 57 freelancers, spun up in a Regis office in London. This is obviously before last March of 2020. Did the work, and 6 months later tore everything down. Everything they did on season 2 of The Crown Post was cloud-based. Everything. They had no equipment to get rid of or worry about. And then they spun down. Everybody went their own way. And then and just recently they just won another big project, and now they're spinning back up again. You can't do that at Technicolor or Deluxe or some of the other large companies. There's just too much equipment to worry about financially.
Well, I was actually in sort of a unique situation, because what happened was, before the pandemic came around, I was doing some work in a facility, and I was sorting out their whole RAID system and their SAN system that they had there, the whole network and the whole company. And then I looked over in the corner, and they had 2 Mac Pros there. And I said, what you going to do with those? And they says, oh, we're going to throw them out. We don't need them anymore. We don't want. And I said, I'll buy them. And then one day I came in and I finished setting up their SAN. And then he said to me, you still want those 2 Mac Pros? And I said, yeah. He says, they're yours, take them.
How nice.
And so what I did is I brought them over. One was a 5.1, one was a 2.1. So what I did is a 2.1, I run cloud computing on it. So I'm running Eclipse Tech on there, and I can, set up the computer for whatever power I need onto it. So I run a fully loaded Resolve system on there with no problems. And even on the 5.1, I can do exactly the same thing too. But what I did on the 5.1 was I changed the CPU, I changed the GPU, changed the power supply, changed everything. And so I've got basically a great running computer then. And then what I needed for working at home was I needed a control surface. And of course, we got a pandemic going on, and it was Christmas time.
Oh, forget it.
So you go on eBay and find, someone's selling an Avid Artist Color panel, the latest one with the OLED displays. Nobody bid on it. I bought it for €300.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so amazing, And so in the end, I've got a well kitted out grading suite, and I'm able to actually do all my work at home. And I have no, real big lockdowns from, power of computer or anything like that. So this is, if you shop around, you can do it, for a very low price when you're doing these things. Yeah.
You had mentioned storage before with Wasabi, and Wasabi, of course, began to break the model in terms of lower cost cloud-based storage. Our store came along also. Our store sells at $5.99 per terabyte per month in the US. 11 nines of data integrity, sub-second time to first byte. Now they've got data centers 3 across the US. Now they've got London up. They've got 2 in Japan and Osaka and Tokyo. They're really expanding. These small kind of ankle biter cloud-based storage companies are beginning to make a little bit of inroads. It's obviously not, keeping Amazon and Google and Azure awake at night completely, but it is. We have seen some egress fees for certain customers from the classic cloud-based service providers come down.
To be honest, I tested Wasabi and it was good, but I had a little bit of performance issue when I was doing it. What I did one time, which I found, which kind of was an amazing thing, was I just plain old Google Drive and put my media files on that and ran it into Resolve using their app, and it sees it like a drive. And I was able to get pretty decent playback speed on it. And so I think it has to do with the caching actually that's working on inside of that. And maybe Wasabi may not be optimized for media storage. And this could be the situation. Yeah, because to get Wasabi to mount as a system drive, let's say on Mac OS, you have to get another bit of software to actually mount to be able to grab the stuff off of it and do it that way. Yeah.
That's definitely the fly in the ointment on these cloud storage providers. It's the data orchestration layer, and there's a couple dozen of them out there, probably more, but there's 6 that dominate the industry, and Wasabi and our store seem to try to optimize for them first. But then you get these edge cases that come up and can take, literally, we've seen months for people to try and make the data orchestration layer work. The cloud-based storage was caught on very early with VFX shops for cloud-based rendering to ship payloads up and basically stop buying all those cores for on-prem. Editorial caught on. VFX was a little tricky beyond rendering because anything beyond 35 milliseconds, your brain and your eye realize, what you're drawing is not what you're seeing. And so you've got to have a really good network connection to make that work. What have you seen in terms of cloud-based performance for the world of colorists? So what do you think are the big challenges?
It depends on the resolution of the files. Yeah, this is the big thing. So, I mean, I found that utilizing, if I was doing things with things like Google Drive, or if I was doing Wasabi or something like that, red files would play back pretty well. And also QuickTimes, you know, ProRes files and things like that. But when you got into single frame formats, then it doesn't do it. It just can't cut it, you know, because when you're getting into these single formats like DPXs and things like that, you need a bit more efficiency, and you need a file system to really manage the stuff and get it through. Yeah. Because the problem with DPX is then the frames get fragmented and you get the DPX frames in all different corners and stuff like that. Yeah. And that was the problems we were having. Yeah.
How about home internet for colorists? Do you think a fair number have upgraded their capabilities at home since COVID began?
Yeah, quite a bit of people have. I know in some of the bigger facilities, when they have the colorists working at home, they usually, in some companies, they send an engineer over to upgrade them. So, you know, people have to work at home and things like this. I mean, for example, what I have a RAID storage locally here, which is an AccuSys RAID, and I use that, and I get a good read write speed. I'm getting about 2,000 megabytes per second read and write. So then with that, I don't have any issues.
Yeah,
But
not everybody's lucky, especially if you're on Virgin in London. It's those are the things that the artists who've been the most challenged. We've known a couple that actually have moved flats just to get better internet access. And then we've got studios who are either consolidating and going to a smaller number of facilities, or simply reducing floor space. Everybody in London, everybody moved out of Soho to High Holborn when rents went up, and now actually there's buildings where rents are going back down, they're crashing, and some people are moving back, including us. We just moved back to Soho last week at 35% less rent than what we used to pay in the same exact.
yeah. I think I lost you, Dennis. Yeah. Hello.
Moving facilities, the very first thing you've got to make sure is that you've got not only good bandwidth, but also options in case you want redundancy or resiliency in terms of two providers coming out of your building, going down separate streets, you know, for separate paths for enhanced uptime. It's probably one of the things that you should look first when looking at a facility at least.
Yeah, I mean, for example, here, the main thing that I look for this is a extremely fast internet connection too. And so I'm just in the process of changing now because Munich has been under construction for several months. They've changed everything to glass fiber. And so what they're doing now is in July, I change over to glass fiber for everything. And then it's effectively my read write speed will double. Yeah.
So in sum, if you've gone through these things, and it sounds like you've optimized your kit, your networking, your storage. How about you personally? Are you going to work at home more, or work at your home studio more than you even did in the past? Or
I feel that I'm working now basically almost all the time at home. Yeah. And then maybe one day a week I'm elsewhere, something like that. Yeah. And so
you and I were talking the other day about young people who are just joining the industry and not having the benefit of sitting next to somebody or down the hall or across a cube from an experienced artist, and how they learn. There's International Colorist has got some great online courses. Do you see that becoming almost the standard way of first year learning going forward?
I think so, actually. And, the thing is that even, Lynette, it was great listening to Lynette talking earlier, because we come from all the same background. And I was doing a grading one time of a film called Prizzi's Honor for the director, John Huston. And we had to send tapes to Houston for approval in Ireland because he was too sick to attend the grading. And we were sending 3/4-inch U-matic cassettes by Federal Express to Ireland for him to QC. And then he'd send them back and say, it's okay. And then we continue on with the grading from there. So in those days, we had to do it that way. Yeah. And, you know, and a lot of directors, sometimes when they were in the UK or something like that, they would do this. Or like when we were working on Roger Rabbit, where they sent a tape over for the assistant to Spielberg came over to the facility and then came back the next day and said, "Oh, I showed Stephen what you did last night. He said it looked great." And then he continued on that way. So there's, you know, we're just doing it a lot quicker now because we now have the ability to change these things. But even before, for example, we were using Zoom, I actually had the idea of doing training over using a sharing software like this. And I ran into a friend of mine who was a software writer at IBC. And I said to him, I said, well, you know, I want to be able to offer training so that the people can be in different locations and they can all log in. And he was writing a software for a musical instrument instruction called Duzu. And we had a look at that. And like I told him, I said, you know, he gave me an account. And I said, okay, you got to change the codec to make it a little bit smoother. You got to do these types of things like that. And they did this, and they actually did a pretty good job of it and all this. But then in the end of the day, we found that most people accepted Zoom more, and then we decided to go with Zoom. Yeah. Yeah.
The old muscle memory cycle.
We are running out of time, guys.
Okay, no worries, not a problem.
Dennis, I know you have something to tell us a little bit more about Soho Net and of course the prizes, big prizes to give away.
Yes, exactly.
I do. And of course, a movie and a video tells a wonderful story. Is it okay if I show a short 3-minute?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Clip? Yeah, it's a lot of colors who are working remotely are using Clearview Pivot, which is a advanced platform that we have. I'm going to show you a little movie about it, and pay attention because the answers to the prize are in there, and the prize is a good one.
Clearview Pivot's unique, real-time collaboration capabilities enable remote media creatives and execs to get together for high-quality, multi-user color grading, DI, and finishing reviews from anywhere. Users can set up a call to any pivot box in just a few clicks, streaming simultaneously to as many as 5 locations in up to 4K HDR with 12-bit color depth and 444 chroma sampling. To demonstrate how Clearview Pivot works, let's say you're a colorist, getting ready to run a remote review from your color grading suite. Here's how to call your post supervisor and director working from different locations. Once you've received your box, you'll need a power source, SDI-based video connection, and a Soho Net media network connection of between 300 to 600 megabits per second to get started. Our 24/7 support team is available to guide you through the one-time setup process, assist with firewall configurations, and ensure you have the correct settings for your individual setup. Now log into your Clearview Pivot account. Click the Create Call button to begin your call setup. Select the pivot box from which you intend to stream from the drop-down list of accessible pivot boxes. Then click Setup Call. Select the correct input feed for your chosen pivot box from the drop-down menu, choosing between single, dual, and quad-link SDI inputs. Before inviting users or making a call, it's best to run a local test to confirm that your chosen input feed is operating as it should. You can also choose to stream using a standard test card for calibration purposes at this stage. Click Start E2E mode to review your encoded stream. While reviewing your stream, you can find detailed information on the status of multiple features, including resolution, frame rate, color space, chroma sampling, and audio channel. Now you can invite approved users or pivot boxes by clicking Invite. An invite to your New York-based post supervisor will be sent directly to their Call Manager interface. They can then choose the appropriate pivot box on which to receive the call, based on location and project permissions. And because Pivot's dynamic point-to-multipoint system can support up to 5 locations at once, your director, working at a pivot box-enabled facility in LA, can be added to the invite with ease. To accept the call, your director simply has to click Answer on their Call Manager interface and be wired up to a monitor or projector to view the decoded video stream. You're ready to begin the review. Start your stream with 16 channels of audio and Pivot's ultra-low latency. Need to drop a user or add another during the call? Stay in control with your own call manager, stopping a stream or dropping a user at any time. Your DOP is working from home without a Soho Net Media Network connection, but you want their feedback too. Adding them to the call is simple. All they need is a PivotBox Lite and a 100 to 150 megabits per second internet connection to access the service and join your review, with ultra-low latency and no compromise in experience. And there you have it, how to bring your remote creatives together and enable them to deliver uncompromising work with Pivot's world-class streaming capabilities. Learn more about Clearview Pivot at sohonet.com.
We produced that video. It's interesting. We have a great partner in London, agency called the Crocodile, or the Croc, and as you can imagine, with the inability to have live actors easily come into a studio, we opted for animation. Clearview Pivot's a great solution. It supports Rec 601, 709, 2020, and then for cinematic P3 as well. The best part of that video was the example of somebody working from home where they're not on the Soho Net network. And again, all you need is 100 to 150 megs of internet connection, depending if you want to work in 2K or 4K. But thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to share that with you. It's a video we're proud of. It was part of the submission for which we won the Emmy Award for Clearview Flex, the more junior version of the product, just 2 months ago.
Thanks, Dennis. There's a lot of interest generated there in the chat, and a lot of people are surprised that you can get away with such a small bandwidth for this.
Indeed, for the 4K 12-bit HDR, you do need the Clearview Pivot to send, but for receive mode, we use an amazing encoder from Comprimato, and then of course our own proprietary software, and the quality is superb. We've got every major studio using Clearview Pivot and Pivot Lite now, and it's interesting now. A couple top MVPs and directors also putting them in their homes. We've got probably 20 directors who've got Pivot Lights in their homes at this point, so it's good stuff. Ready for the questions?
Yeah, we're at 75, but we're running out of time. So we'll give any last minute people the chance to get it. Can we get it up to 80? Any more for the quiz? You have to sign into Slido. You can use the barcode on the screen, or just type in slido.com and the hashtag colorist mixer. And we're at 80. So let's go ahead and open the quiz. This is a great prize. In order to view a remote color grade using Clearview Pivot Lightbox, what type of connection and bandwidth is required? Is it internet 100 megabits per second for 2K and 150 megabits per second for UHD? Do you need a wired connection? Do you need 750 megabits per second 2K or 900 megabits UHD? And we're seeing some results coming in here. Yep, the big one there is the lowest connection. And a lot of people are quick with the answer. Darren's in there. Second question, what color spaces are supported on Clearview Pivot? You can tick more than one. So you need to check all of the supported color spaces to answer the question. Direct 2020, 709, 601, P3. Let's have a look. So yeah, of course, Rec 709, 20% P3. Nobody voted for 601.
Or 601.
So what do we get? That sorted a few out. So Thomas Meyer is the leader by about 4 seconds. And Kieran. So congratulations. Those are our winners, I believe.
That is fantastic.
Cool. So fantastic. Excellent. Dennis, thank you very, very much.